It's a pleasure to welcome you all here today and to those of you online for this launch of Seamap Antarctica. I would particularly like to acknowledge, hopefully, Australia's Chief Scientist, Professor Tony Haymet, hopefully online, and thank you all for being here for this important moment. Today we're launching more than a website. We are launching a new Antarctic mapping portal and data platform designed to make Australian or international Antarctic spatial data more discoverable, more accessible, and more useful to the broader community. Seamap Antarctica brings together data, technology, and collaboration in a way that helps turn fragmented information into a shared resource for science, for policy, for conservation, and for public understanding. We're living in a time when Antarctic science is producing extraordinary volumes of information. Advances in mapping, in imaging, and observations are revealing parts of the Antarctic seafloor and marine environment that were previously unknown. International collaborations and new technologies are generating bathymetry, they're generating imagery, habitat and ecological data sets at an unprecedented rate. But the challenge has not simply been collecting these data. The challenge has been that too much of that information remains scattered across institutions, in different formats, in different projections, and hosted by different disciplines. And this fragmentation limits its collective value. At a time of accelerating environmental change and growing human pressure, we need better ways to bring Antarctic information together so it can be discovered, explored, and used. And that was the problem that Seamap Antarctica set out to address. Seamap Antarctica is a new mapping portal and website that delivers Antarctic spatial data to the community through a unified, accessible, and standardised interface. Put simply, that creates one place where users can go to discover, to view, and work with Antarctic seafloor data and related environmental information. Importantly, it's not just a visualisation tool. It's a platform that strengthens pathways from data to evidence and from evidence to insight. It has been designed to support research, policy, conservation planning, education and communication, and it builds on one national investment and expertise designed through Seamap Australia and IMAS-led marine data systems, ensuring that this capability is extended to the Antarctic domain. From today, if you were to go to seamapantarctica.org, users can enter the portal and start exploring data in a practical and intuitive way. They can browse the catalogues, looking for the title of the institute that may have collected the data, or by keywords and by organisation. And they can discover information that otherwise would be difficult to locate across several repositories, different platforms, and I'll mention again, different projection systems across the continent. The portal also supports a rich map-based interface. So for the users who are not used to using a GIS interface, it allows this interaction through maps and pop-ups with viewed summaries that are configured to create these templates. So it means that we can begin to move from simply looking at a map to understanding the information behind it. And this is published with all the metadata and data records attached to each of the data layers. For a launch audience, like as yourselves, this is one of those most important points, I think. And this is that this live infrastructure is that people can use. It's not just a concept for the future. Today it's live and you can start using it. One of the strengths of Seamap Antarctica is it behaves in a way that's familiar to people who work spatially and remains accessible to people who do not use GIS every day. Users can combine layers, they can reorder them, they can adjust opacities, they can switch between legends and purposes. This matters because within this portal, it allows us to improve our methods of communication. A researcher might use it to frame a new question. A manager might use it to assess the information that exists within a region. A teacher might use it to show students how environmental and biological data can be spatially explicit and how they can come together to answer different questions. And a policymaker might use it to understand what evidence is available and where different gaps remain. Another important feature that users can expect is that they can configure maps in high resolution and generate bookmarks. So you can pull all your data layers together, create the scene that you want to share with your colleagues, and share that bookmark with a collaborator. This might sound like a small technical detail, but it's actually one of the strengths of the platform is because it allows you to look at and share the same information across a variety of different layers. When a portal allows people to share, save and reuse that data and have it configured in that way, it becomes far more than a static website. It becomes a working tool for collaboration, for reporting, for teaching and for communication. And this is part of what Seamap Antarctica is useful for across the wider community, from science and management through to outreach and education. A further strength of Seamap Antarctica is that it can integrate with other sources rather than requiring everything to be hosted in one place. In the current platform, that includes the integration of the IMOS, the Integrated Marine Observer System, UMI, Underwater Marine Imaging Facility, called Squiddle Plus, and benthic imagery data collection, which allows users to connect with mapped information with the Antarctic seafloor and move directly into linking that with other richer image-based exploration. That connection is powerful because it links broad spatial context and the kind of detailed observational material that helps scientists, managers and the community understand what Antarctic environments actually look like. And I think you'll be quite surprised at some of that imagery that's going to be showing over lunch. It actually transforms these abstract layers of things that we talk about, underwater waterfalls, the geology of Antarctica at different depth ranges, into something that's a lot more tangible and interpretable by the general community. So under the hood of Seamap Antarctica, we follow a federated data system. In plain language, that means that data can remain with the original organisation that generated and stewards that data while being discoverable through Seamap Antarctica and shared with data standards, with metadata and services. This is really important because it respects data stewardship, it reduces duplication. So if there's any alterations made to that original data set, that sits with the host institution. And it allows the platform to grow through collaboration rather than centralising everything in one place. So we're not copying it and downloading it onto our data portals. This is actually interconnected back to the host institutions that are promoting that data. This is well suited for the Antarctic context where data are generated across institutions, globally, across different programs and jurisdictions. What users experience, though, when they're using Seamap Antarctica is one coherent portal. So you don't see all that going on behind the hood. And it is a first collaborated ecosystem made possible by sharing these data infrastructures and standards. Seamap Antarctica is not only important because it improves data discovery, because it helps lay the foundation for better Antarctic decision support. Platforms like this can strengthen marine spatial planning, for vulnerability assessment, for conservation prioritisation, for research coordination and public engagement. And that helps turn these data sets into a more usable evidence base. This is also a strong example of Australian leadership. It builds on the experience of Seamap Australia and on IMAS data systems and extends that approach into one of the most globally significant and logistically challenging environments to get to on Earth. In doing so, it creates something that is valuable nationally, but also relevant internationally. As Antarctic science, conservation and governance increasingly depend on accessible, interoperable data systems. So today is an important milestone, but it's also a beginning. Seamap Antarctica will become more valuable as it grows through its use, through its partnership and through your contribution. We want this platform to be used by the entire Antarctic science community, by the collaborators and by the end users, and for those who are looking for a better way to communicate Antarctic knowledge more broadly. We invite collaboration. When you start playing with the system, if you see any glitches or data that you think that we're missing, please contact us. If you hold open, well-described data sets, and I challenge you to find one that's not on Seamap Antarctica, there is an opportunity to grow this platform and strengthen its value to the community. Your data remains critical over time and critical for its use. And this needs to be linked back to the original source, to you as scientists and authors and contributors in the community, while gaining greater visibility and collective impact through this portal. So thank you to everyone who has contributed to the development of Seamap Antarctica, in particular our programmers at Condense. And thank you for being here at the launch today. I'd especially like to thank Dr. Emma Flukes, who is our amazing data architect and who has been the driving force before collating up to over 1,000 data layers, which now are hosted into Seamap Antarctica. So I'm pleased to say that Seamap Antarctica is now live.